Being a Longhorn is pride, achievement, family. It's about belonging to a vibrant community that strives for greatness in everything. Being a Longhorn means engaging in STEM education, starting your path to college in elementary, and earning a college degree in high school. Being a Longhorn is a choice to lead, to innovate, to thrive in any setting. Here, you'll discover that learning isn't limited to textbooks. We believe in hands-on experiences that ignite creativity and fuel imagination. As a Longhorn, you have the opportunities to grow beyond the classroom, from the stage to the field. It's a great day to be a Longhorn. And when the time comes to graduate, you'll leave with a sense of accomplishment, knowing that you're prepared for whatever the future holds. The pride of being a Longhorn is something that cannot be described. It's better to experience it and feel it. This is Cedar Hill ISD. We educate, empower, and inspire.
Good evening, everyone, and we are glad that you are here joining us tonight. We are going to present our community VATRE information, and we have our Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Dr. Gerald Hudson, here with you. We have our Chief of Police, Mr. James Hawthorne, and we have our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Carla Settle, and they will be your experts guiding you through this information tonight. At the end, we will have an opportunity for you to ask questions, so please feel free to do that at the end of this presentation. At this time, I will allow Dr. Hudson to begin the presentation.
So we can go ahead to the next slide. It is just introducing who we have here in the room. As Dr. McDonald said, Ms. Settle as well as Chief Hawthorne. So one thing will be very clear is what's on the ballot. So here's what the sample ballot will look like for Cedar Hill ISD for the voter approval tax rate election, which is as listed as Proposition A. And so if you go early voting or you're going to wait till November 7th, it's one of the last things on the actual ballot. So again, this is Prop A, is to ratifying the ad valorem tax rate of 1.1326 in Cedar Hill ISD for the current year, a rate that will result in a decrease of 4.87% in maintenance and operation tax rate for the district for the current year as compared to preceding years, which is an additional $6.8 million total local and state M&O revenue. So again, this is what the ballot would look like. One thing that's different, this is not the first time the Cedar Hill has gone out for VATRE, initially in 2017, last November. One thing that I would say is very different this year versus previous years, we actually have the support. Now, we may have the support individually, but vocally, loud and clear, we have the support of our mayor, the city council, the City Hill Chamber of Commerce, the education committee that was formed by the mayor, and we even have a resolution from the city council that they approved prior to the board going out for VATRE. So once again, is the city and everyone understand the importance of us passing a VATRE. So what are the reasons why we want to have great academics in Cedar Hill ISD? Because we understand to bring in businesses and everything else, they always ask about the school system. We always say that no city rises above a school system. So we want to have a quality, excellent school district to best represent our community and the things we're trying to do in Cedar Hill. So the main things is really about retaining quality staff. We understand that having 3 years of a great teacher in a row makes everything easy for a kid as far as what they want to do. It takes one bad teacher to derail that. We also understand when it talks about the group that has the greatest impact on student achievement, it's teachers. It's not administrators. It's not a superintendent. It's not coaches, it is actually teachers, quality teaching in the classroom. And the second thing is really about safe and secure classroom. We understand that kids do, if kids do not feel safe, they can't learn. So we want to make sure that the ways to improve academics is through the support of things we're trying to do, which is retain quality staff and have safe and secure classrooms. So the City Hill needs for us to have those quality schools because it does attract businesses and economic development. But we also need the resource to be able to attract and retain high quality instructors to promote students' achievement. One of the things that's important, as you'll see now, is that retaining our teachers makes a difference because that's why we're doing what we're doing. We want to make sure we have quality people in front of our students. Again, retaining our teachers makes a difference. And we use an example if you had older siblings or younger siblings, and if you went to the same schools, typically you had the same teachers that your siblings had, or they had the same teachers that you had. And it was kind of like that understanding of family dynamics and so forth. And sometimes it was a good thing, sometimes it was a bad thing. But no longer are those days. People move around so much that our kids, um, year to year, may not have the same teachers in the building. And so that's something we have control. One of the things we talk about, what do teachers want? Three things. First is a good culture. And that's something that we have control of, how we treat each other in our district, how we respond to their needs. That's something that we as a district have control over. Number two is a competitive salary. And that's something we are going to our voters to help us to be able to be competitive because that's important. And then number three, autonomy, the ability to teach how they want to teach. And that's what we're trying to do, get our kids to the next level. And that's what by having great teachers. When we mentioned about number two, by having the competitive salary, here's what the salaries look like across our area. And one thing you see, we have 57,000, which may not say is bad, but we also were one of the few school districts in the area that at least tried to increase and give our teachers a raise so we could, even though we are behind, we're still behind. And so we want to make sure that we reward our people well. It's unfortunate demographic wise, we're surrounded by all these other districts that have past VATREs that are able to give more money. And it is important for us to consider to look at that because the salaries have effect on different things. One of the things we look at is how the turnover affects the academics. So here's a chart that kind of shows the teacher turnover compared to the state turnover. And one of the things, we've always had a high turnover, but also it has been something to do with how well we're compensating our people. When we did a TASB study, which is Texas Association of School Board, it was very clear. They said that it is $2,500 is the difference that it will for a person to consider changing school district. Also, it's long gone are the days that we had that you lived in the community that you worked in. You know, I used to with my pastoral group that it used to be back in the day when you lived in the community, they taught in the community, they went to the same church in the community. So if you misbehaved on Monday through Friday, on Sunday, you may heard about it as well in church. So now people have the ability to work in one area and move to another. We also tell people always want to know, well, how did we come up with open enrollment? Open enrollment rules about recruiting teachers because teachers could not go to work in another school district. Well, they could, but they didn't have opportunity to bring their own children because of scheduling and some other thing. So they had to allow open enrollment to allow teachers to bring their kids into those districts. So again, why is it important? Here are some stats that's alarming. 53% of our teachers leave after 2 years. And the top reason are increase in pay and promotion. I'm not upset with someone getting a promotion, but increase in pay, there's some things we can't handle. Now, of course, the turnover rate for the Cedar Hill ISD is 28%, which is not that much different from a lot of our surrounding areas, but it is double that of the state. And so if we're, and one of the stats we haven't used, that 44% of our teachers are 0 to 5 years. And so we're losing veteran teachers because of retirements, but we also recycling people at the very end because of every 2 years. So we are constantly trying to train and retrain to keep quality people in front of our students. So with the approval of the VATRE, this was actually provide raises for teachers and support staff. One thing I want to make very clear, we cannot give raises in the middle of the school year. Our laws do not allow us to do that. So what we can do is give a stipend. So what we would, with the approval of the VATRE in January, teachers, nurses, librarian, counselors would get a $2,500 stipend, and then the others would get $1,000. And it's really, and that will be rolled into the salary as we look towards 3 to 4 to 5% raise for the following academic school year. One of the reasons why we want to roll that is because, unfortunately, stipends does not necessarily count towards contribution towards your retirement versus being in your salary. So even though it's a short fix, we want to make sure people understand we're going to do exactly what we said we're going to do. And this is a checkpoint that you'll be able to say, did they do what they said they were going to do with the money? And that's talk about transparency, accountability. We want to make sure that the voters, as well as the community, understand that we do exactly with the money what we said we're going to do with it. So the second part is about safe and secure classroom. Now allow Chief Hawthorne, who's the expert on that, to discuss.
Yes, as Dr. Hudson stated, academics is important, and we strive in the school district to have the greatest achievements in academics. And we also realize that in order to do that, kids have to feel safe and secure in their classrooms. Parents want to feel that when they drop their kids off at school, they've dropped them off in a safe environment, and we're producing that safe environment for them. House Bill 3, which recently passed, requires an armed security officer at each school. We expected to receive roughly $225,000 from the state to achieve that for House Bill 3. And that's going to be a little short of what we need in order to accomplish that. We currently have police officers at our secondary campuses, but not at the elementary campuses. And we're hoping that when the VATRE passes, that will give us the funds needed in order to have the officers at the elementary campuses. And if you've paid attention to the news here recently, you know, the officers are needed at every campus. And we've certainly had incidents around the Metroplex and around the nation that would speak to the importance of having a police presence on elementary campuses. So when we're there as, of course, as in protectors, but we want to be more than a protector. We want to build relationships with children, and children to see us as helpers in the community and see us as a resource. So we're not always there in enforcement capacity, but we want to be seen as an educator, a mentor, a problem solver, a liaison, you know, for the kids. And like I said before, in simpler terms, a community helper. And that's what we want our kids to see us as on the campus, as a community helper. So we talked about funding just a little bit, and I mentioned that the state was giving us $225,000, which is going to be short in order to fund 9 additional officers that we'll need to cover the rest of the campuses. That's going to require a little over $600,000, and that's with just salaries and benefits alone. And so if we're talking about other equipment that's needed, you know, the price goes up from there. But just salaries and benefits alone is roughly $625,000 that we would need in order to fund the additional staff that we need for the elementary campuses.
Hi, Carla Settle here, Chief Financial Officer for Cedar Hill ISD. The district has diligently had a record of being good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars, but we took an extra deep dive into the district's budget and made an additional $1.2 million cuts through staff reductions and reclassifying positions to other funding sources like grants or federal funds. And so we have been doing the work here locally before we considered approaching the taxpayers for additional pennies on their tax rate. But speaking of our tax rate, in the next slide, you will see that Cedar Hill is one of several districts whose tax rate is still not enough and is creating a need to adopt a budget deficit. And that's common amongst our neighbors in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is just a symptom of a larger issue, in the state funding formula, but the need is the same all over North Texas. And then in the next slide, you'll see that Cedar Hill taxpayers have enjoyed declining tax rates over the last 7 years, 38 cents of savings over the last 7 years. And this is through the maintenance and operation tax rate compression, the same tax rate that we're discussing here about a voter approved tax rate election. So in this past summer, in the second special session of the 88th legislature, a unique opportunity happened where the maximum compressed tax rate went up further than the normal compression, down another 10 cents. So the board has not changed the debt rate, which is the gray portion of this graph, which we call the interest and sinking rate. That is a steady rate that we use to support our debt obligations. But even with a proposed, voter approved tax rate election, including all additional pennies proposed for the 2023 tax year, the Cedar Hill taxpayers would still see a decrease in their overall tax rate. Plus, on the ballot, you'll see in November and voting now, the 100,000 property tax exemption. So it's a good news for taxpayers all around that it's a win-win. So what would that look like for a Cedar Hill taxpayer? Last year, our median home appraised value was about $300,000. So we put together a scenario here for you to see what it would look like for this year with the increase in the homestead exemption, plus the change in the tax rate. A property tax bill for this sample taxpayer would save $1,000 without the passage of a VATRE. And if the VATRE were to pass, they would still save money. It's a unique time in all things fun and school finance law. But a successful VATRE would still save this average taxpayer $830 and provide vital funding for the district to move forward in a strategic fashion. Prioritizing people. And speaking of our citizens who are over 65, these are some of our most concerned citizens whenever we talk about tax rates. Many of our citizens over 65 are on fixed incomes. And the good news is that a VATRE would not affect their property tax bill as long as they have filed their homestead with the local appraisal district. And now I believe Dr. McDonald will give us a little bit, or Dr. Hudson, a little bit about where to vote.
Well, early voting is going on right now. So early voting is happening now to November 3rd at the Allenstown Recreation Center, as well as Cedar Hill High School. And then election day, here's are the places that you can vote on Tuesday, November 7th. So again, this is the official places where you can vote. Early voting is on now to November 3rd, and Election Day we have on November 7th. Three things we want you to remember. One is about teachers. Two is about funds and still having given additional funds to the school district and still having lower taxes. And then the third thing is always about safety and security, especially at our elementary schools. And any questions?
We don't have any questions at this time, but we will give our viewers a few more minutes. We did have a question that was answered. Will the slide deck be made available for parents after the virtual meeting? And that is yes, it will be made available tonight.
Also one thing, I don't think we stress this enough, with the passage of the VATRE, and Carla, you can either attest or not, we cannot go back out again next November and try to do this again. Is that correct?
Correct. This is a one-time deal. A change in our tax rate. We're only asking for the number of pennies that are allowed by current statute.
Yes, and so that. Carla, what is the exact breakdown how tax will be allocated?
Right. So in the sample schedule of how say a person's property tax bill is broken out, we have, again, governed by statute, only two ways to spend our money. The INS tax rate is used to support our debt obligations, and the maintenance and operation tax rate is really the one we're talking about when it comes to the voter approved tax rate election. And that is at the discretion of how the Board of Trustees decides to adopt the budget each June. And, I guess CHISD does have the ability to redistribute at their discretion, but this board has made a longstanding commitment over all the meetings I've been to that a VATRE would prioritize people because it makes the biggest impact in the classroom. Doing that, prioritizing that, it does lock the budget down to salaries and does not give you the ability in mid-year to change because you've contractually obligated those funds. I hope that helps answer the question. A voter-approved tax rate election is the appeal to the voters for that school district tax that is beyond the 5 pennies that has typically been assessed by the Board of Trustees. So the board has their authorization of pennies, and then anything beyond that, you have to have voter approval. And so it is all the same property tax bill. When you see CHISD on your property tax bill, it's all the same tax. It's just that we need the voters' endorsement to add any additional pennies past that original 5. I could nerd out about this a lot.
What's the max number of pennies?
The max number of pennies is 17. So 5 board authorized pennies, and then the 12 that are voter approved.
It doesn't appear that we have any more questions at this time. Dr. Hudson, would you like to add any final words for our viewers?
Well, more than anything else, it's really about doing what's best to retain good quality teachers and also to be in compliance with House Bill 3. And it's a need for, as we've seen just recently, just with our elementary campuses, we need to have those police officers. So some people may say, why not an armed security guard or the marshal or the guardian? We have a great response time. Typically, when you look at marshal guardian, which is arming your teachers, is very helpful for remote places that may have a sheriff department. May the response time may be 20 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a long time. We have a very great response rate. Also, our police department, Cedar Hill ISD Police Department, work hand in hand with the Cedar Hill Police Department to the point that they actually have a frequency together. If we have armed security guards, they cannot be on the same frequency with the police officers. But by having all the police officers on the same, it's an extra layer of protection, not only with our school district, just our whole community in general, because our police department supports Cedar Hill Police Department just as well as Cedar Hill Police Department support our school district police department. So it's really giving that additional layer that we need just to help in any situation that's necessary and communicate to the best of our ability. There are a lot of propositions. So it is at the very bottom. You have to go through all the state constitution amendments and then anything, and then you get to the school district and it's way at the bottom. So don't get into voter fatigue. We want you to follow it all the way through and make your choice. Anything else from any others?
Not at this time. That appears to be our final question. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. This presentation will be made available to you later tonight, and we are encouraging everyone to get out and vote. Early voting has already started, and we do have that information on our website. So I do have one more question that came in, so I'm going to show it here.
Is there a way to have it? Ms. France, I wish I had the answer to that because it is so complex in the fact that one thing people don't understand, like for instance, property taxes have increased. And one thing that people don't understand, as the property taxes increase, you think there's creating more taxes. You think, well, that's more money for the school district. But as we increase more local taxes, the state give us less state funding. So it's always a great equalizer. So it sometimes is counterproductive in the fact that more local taxes does not mean more money for the school district because they have a way to do it. So we have a budget 101, is that correct, on our website? But I don't necessarily know if it's going to dumb it down. Not that it is, or I just say put it in layman's terms. I've been doing this a long time, and I still feel like there are still new wrinkles to it that I find out every single year. Carl, you have anything else to add about that?
No, I would just say that, as far as school finance goes, I just like to commend our board in being very transparent and committed to making the biggest change in a classroom. And you can see that by just looking at how much we spend on payroll versus anything else. And so this is just connecting that because from the time I've been in Cedar Hill ISD, I have seen the board priorities be people. And that is what this is boiling down to. And I know that the state legislature is not making things any simpler, but there is this one tax year where the homestead exemption increase and the tax compression will still lower your property taxes this year with a VATRE. So.
Okay, we don't have any more questions, and that will conclude our presentation tonight. We want to thank all of you for joining us, and we would like for you to remember, once again, that early voting has started, and you can go to our website and find the times and locations of our voting sites. Thank you, and have a great night.